Hello, I'm Brian Costello, and welcome to the Teacher's Journey podcast, where we talk with some of the best educators around about learning and life as they share the stories that made them the educators they are today. And welcome back once again to the Teacher's Journey. I'm so excited tonight to have this, well, tonight for me, but this morning for you, to have my guest with me is Tara Linney. She is an international educator, a technology coordinator or specialist at the all of those things, a technology everything in Singapore, at least at the moment. But we'll get more into international education at another time. Tara does some really great things with technology, and she has a really, really special book that's out right now that I've read. I want to say not all of, but I've dug into a bit, and I've already learned a lot from just the beginning of it. And so I'm really enjoying the book that she has out there for us. So she's going to tell us more about that as we get into things. But first, I just wanted to introduce her. So Tara, thanks for joining me tonight. Or this morning, or wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is you listen to it. I always say tonight because it's always like the middle of the night when I'm trying to record these things. And then I don't feel like going back, and I never remember not to say that. So anyway, welcome. That was a long introduction, but welcome. You deserve a long introduction. I think that's important. Here we go.
Thank you.
So, Tara, this is kind of where I like to start from. We got to start from the beginning, because if we start anywhere else, people will get confused. So tell me a little bit about like the moment or the time when you realized and decided that you were going to go into education.
Oh, wow. When I was 5 years old. So I was 5 years old. I had a not so great kindergarten teacher. She called my parents in for a parent-teacher conference because we were supposed to draw butterflies, and I drew mine like with rounded wings, and she wanted them with straight wings. So clearly I had a problem since I was 5, and I was like, no, I'm going to show her, and I'm going to become a teacher.
Butterflies don't have straight wings. Why would you do that?
Exactly. Like the art, it just doesn't match. Like, oh. So, oh yeah. And I decided from that point that I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. And then, of course, I grew up and decided kindergarten is definitely a fun age, and I've worked with kindergartners. I think my sweet spot is like the preteens, because I've worked with like K through 8. And K was definitely a lot of runny noses and accidents and clothes that I couldn't wear again the next day. And yeah, so I had to do the laundry a lot more when working with kindergartners. But I think that what eventually got me to actually become a teacher, so I was in college my first year. It was all about education. And then my second year, I took off. And I moved to Florida because I was based in North Carolina and I wanted something different. So then I took a year and a half off of school. And during that year and a half, I got into event marketing and actually went back and got a bachelor's degree in public relations and worked in nonprofit and marketing for 7 years. When I was working at the American Cancer Society in Gwinnett County, Georgia, which they host the world's largest Relay for Life. Every year, it raises about $2 million per year.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's like quite the event. And in college, I always loved volunteering for the American Cancer Society, but then I started to work for them, and it was not the same. When you work for a nonprofit, it's this different side than it is volunteering for a nonprofit. And so that was 2008, and I realized, like, I really just want to help people. And that's why I volunteered. That's why I went in to work for a nonprofit, and it just wasn't fulfilling me in the same way. And so then I'm like, all right, well, I guess now is the time to become a teacher.
Yeah. Kindergarten is waiting, you know?
Yeah. That was a long story, but yes.
And those kids can draw the butterflies however they want. It's going to be great.
Yeah. They
I
can be
mean,
as colorful or as black and white as they want. Yeah.
you can even draw moth. Go for it. I mean, why not? So, I mean, and so having taught kindergarten, I know that like there's so much that you can do in kindergarten that it's like it's a different place, and there's definitely some unique aspects of it that require you to do more laundry and other things. But it is it is a fun place to be. And now I'm working with the early teenage kids now. I'm working with middle school kids, and I find the similarities between them and teenagers to be just less like the laundry, but very much so this similar dynamic of who they are and their like stages of development. They're ready for the next step, but they're not really ready for the next step. And it's yeah. Um, so you went back and you started teaching. You walked into classroom, and what was that like? Like you walked into your classroom and you're like, all right, I got this. I can be a teacher. I'm going to make the best butterflies ever. Let's do it. What happens?
Oh, wow. Okay. So one of my cousins, well, second cousin, hooks me up with a recruiter. And at this point, I was living in Georgia. And I was supposed to take a Baltimore teaching residency job in Baltimore. And my boyfriend at the time was like, I have no one there who can protect you. And I was like, why do I need protection? And then I went to Baltimore and saw a crime in the middle of the day, and it was a scary crime. And yeah, so I didn't end up in Baltimore. So then fast forward 2 years later and dumping the boyfriend, and I decided Philly was a good place. I've got extended family in Philly. Why not? Yeah, I was hired to start working the week after spring break of 2010 as kind of a relief teacher. Though my role was in title, it was technology teacher. I was actually a reading and math teacher for an inner city school. That was
It's the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
They're interchangeable.
Exactly. So my first day, I will never forget, like my first day or my first week there. There was like a fight, and I didn't know what to do.
Did you win?
Huh?
So did you win?
No. There were two boys who were like fighting down the stairs, and I will never forget. I was screaming. I was like, "Stop fighting!" And like my voice got really high. And the principal called me into the office like after the fight and after all that, and she was like, "What was that sound?" Like, what do you mean? There was a fight. No, there's this high pitched like squeal sound. And I was like, I was trying to get them to stop. And she was like, "Honey, I know you're new. We're going to teach you how to yell." So that was my first day in teaching in inner city Philadelphia. And from then on, I have learned how to yell from my gut, military style. And yeah.
I had that conversation with kids today. It was great. They were like, they had just finished testing, and the teacher went to like go hand in the testing stuff, and I was just hanging out with them, and they were kind of being a little loud. So some of the kids were like, "Shh!" I'm like, "No, that doesn't work." I said, "This works. It comes from down here. You got it down in the right above your belly, like that's where the projection comes from. You stand up. You got to say it loud. It comes down from. That's how you get the room to quiet down. Is you don't just push it to quietness. It doesn't work." They're like, "Oh, okay." Then of course I had half a dozen kids attempting to try it, so that went well.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting is that I think like most of us, you definitely didn't know what to expect fully when you walked in on the first day. And I think you having come in from outside of a traditional education background like I did, you don't know what it's gonna be like. And when you find out what it's gonna be like, there's some really great things, and there's also some surprises. So how did you manage that? How did you navigate all that? Like, how did you get through that first? I mean, it was only a couple of months, and But how did you get through that to realize, okay, I'm going to be able to come back and still have a job or still work in schools like going forward?
Well, there were a lot of tears, which I'm told that's a normal thing. Uh, yeah, not so many at school. Okay, yeah, I definitely cried a couple of times at school, but not in front of the students because like you're not supposed to like cry in front of them.
Don't
Um,
in front of the kids.
oh gosh, never. I did one of my first weeks, and then I was like, "What did I just do?" And that class was a disaster from that point on. Um, being in such a big school district and not being a certified teacher because I was under an emergency permit at that point, and starting my grad courses at Drexel University to become certified and to get my master's and all of that. So it was a lot those first 3 months at the end of that school year. And so actually at the end of that school year, they transferred me to another school. And so that was even more a lot. I had a co-teacher there who was really great though. And a group of really great third graders. Like all in all, like there were ups and downs for sure, but really great group of kids. Very, very eclectic.
And I understand I know what you mean. It's just there's some really great personalities in there, and like, you can make jokes. They understand. You can have fun with them. They know how to have fun, and also not go way over the top with it most of the time. So that's
Yeah.
I mean, so that experience probably balanced out a lot for you and gave you the feeling and opportunity. I'm guessing that you were going to be okay in this. It's maybe not perfect for a while, but you were going to be okay. So you kind of started as a technology. So were you always, except for when you were, a math teacher, were you always a technology teacher? Like, was that always your kind of thing, or?
So no, actually before I got into teaching, I was a tutor for Mathnasium. So that was my part-time job when I was working for the American Cancer Society. And so at Mathnasium, they have like these little clinics where you work with anywhere from one-on-one tutoring to like one tutor per every 6 students, working with all different types of math. And like, I love math. So when I was working in Philadelphia, I didn't do anything with technology, like at all. My first full year when I was in the co-teaching environment, we used some tech, and I saw what they were doing in the technology class, but yeah, not really anything hands-on in our classroom because we didn't have tech like that at that time. That was like pre-iPad stage, or right when the iPad was first coming out, and we definitely were not the first ones to have it. So, because the iPad was like 2010, and I started in 2010. So yeah, we were still at computer labs with like the big old computers and all that. And then as I got more into my graduate program at Drexel, I got more into tech integration in education. And I actually got pink slipped after my first full year in Philly. And that summer, pink slipped on my birthday. My birthday's June 1st.
There you go. Happy birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
What a present.
I know, like the principal was crying and I was like, what? I'm just a year older. She's like, no, I'm sorry that I have to do this. And I'm
You're
like,
also unemployed.
yeah. Like, ouch, dagger. Unemployed, no certification, first year. It was just a really, like, that first year, you learn a lot about the politics of schools, about the financial part of schools, and about teaching. Like, I feel like I should get, like, an honorary doctorate degree or something just from that first year.
I think it's funny that you mentioned that, and you're not the first person that I've talked to that mentioned that, but schools are such a political place, and I think that like when kids come into school, like when you go to school as a kid, you don't see it most of the time. Like there are some, like in really bad situations, you might see it, but like most of the time, when you're a kid, you don't see like all the petty things and the politics and the behind the scenes crap. But the second you walk in the door as a teacher, you walk into some hornet's nests that you weren't expecting to, and you don't know, because that illusion that the school is not, like, I was a political science major, and so I was like, I don't want to do politics. And so when I walked into the school, I'm like, great. I was like, no politics. I'm teaching kindergarten. And like 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, crap. Like, I was like, this is not good at all. Like, there was definitely not politic-free zone here. It was not what I was expecting. And and I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew that there were things that I didn't understand going on behind scenes that I wasn't aware of. So I think it's really interesting that you point that out too. Like, there's so much political stuff that you learn about who has power and how that sways things, and
Right.
and who you need to talk to get things done, and all that kind of stuff that you have no idea about when you walk into a new school, and when you're new, you have no idea about it all. So
I've been new a lot of times.
well, yeah, I mean, moving from school district or place to place, and working in a lot of different places, I'm sure you have had a lot of those experiences. So, and had the time to sort out all different political setups of different types of schools, which is, again, it's a really interesting conversation that is definitely going to happen another day. But I want to dig into the other side of this. So, like, at what point in your career did you end up working with technology?
So after I got laid off in Philly, I applied to about 36 jobs that summer.
That's
of
all?
course, yeah,
You must not have wanted another one.
No. I feel like every day it was like, okay, must apply for 10 jobs today and 10 tomorrow. I only got a call back from one. And so when you only get a call back from one, you take the one. And that was as a technology teacher, which was against my ideology, but I had this whole vision where I could go in as a technology teacher year one, and then year two, convince the school to transition me into a coaching role. That was the game plan. Clearly that didn't work out. So I took the job, which was in Matthews, North Carolina. And there I was literally just teaching technology classes, K-5, around the clock in a computer lab. No meetings with teachers, no real integration with teachers, and it was going completely against everything that I was learning with Drexel for that entire time, because I was still in the grad program. So then I stayed there for a year and I left because they weren't moving in the direction of getting into tech coaching. So I'm like, this is not the best use of anyone's time. And then I accepted a job in Washington, D.C., with kind of a startup school that unfortunately has now been taken over by the district. But it was its own independent public charter school. And it was in the poorest ward, and it's still there, in Ward 8 with 30% unemployment. And it's an all-girls public charter school. And so I took a job there as a tech teacher, and I tried again to say, all right, I would be so much better as a tech coach, and here's why. And I wrote a nice long proposal and did the budgets and everything, and they accepted. So tech teacher year one, tech integrator for a few months over the summer, tech coordinator year two.
So what would you say you learned from, the first go around where you were like, I'm going to make this change, it's going to happen, to the next time around? Like, what did you do that was different?
I think it was just because it was a different environment. That's kind of what made it different, because I was still in my graduate program. I was in that for about 2.5 years. So that was the 1 year in Philly and then the 1 year in North Carolina. I think having that certification and that master's degree under my belt when I went to make my offer in DC definitely helped. And writing the school's strategic plan for technology definitely helped. So when you're not attached to a larger school district, having those things definitely works in your favor. When you are attached to a larger district, I don't know how to crack that code because I wasn't able to in North Carolina.
Yeah, my first school district was like there 165, 170 kids K-8, and then the school district I'm in now is totally different. And we have more teachers than that. As like we have more staff and teachers in the building that I work in than we had students in my old district. So it's a totally different experience. I'm trying to do all kinds of things to the existing lab that require approvals from multiple people. And so I brought them all into the meeting today. Actually, just it was today. And I had them all come into the meeting today. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do that. And they were like, and they looked at me like, why do you want to do that? And I said, this is why I want to do it. This is the purpose. Here's where I'm going with this. Is it against the law? Is it like, are there laws that say we can do that? Do I have any support? And they were like, when I tell you that, and this is not a value judgment on my school or on anybody else. This is just a judgment of my general experience with larger, like more bureaucratic systems in general. Was like I was expecting a whole lot of problems. I mean, the people who are in charge of these departments are good people, but they were like, yeah, okay, we can do that. I don't see any problem with that. And I don't know. I was so floored by the fact that it was so easy with everybody in the room sitting down together. I'm like, there's something wrong here. So I'm still waiting for the other, like, probably because I wasn't really asking for much money. I think that might have happened. But so anyway, getting back to, so you're working now at an all-girls charter school, which I want to touch on that a little bit because your book is about the gender equity gap in technology and coding. So you're a technology teacher and then a technology coach and integration and technology everything at this school. Mm-hmm. For a school full of girls in a low-income district in DC. What was it like? What was that experience like? Like, what was the experience you had with the kids who were coming to you? Like, where were they? Like, was that something that kind of keyed you into, or laid some groundwork for you into this topic, this field?
Definitely, it helped to lay the groundwork. So what had happened there is I set up an after-school blogging club because I love writing. So I'm like, oh yeah, the girls can write, gets them ready for the upcoming park test and the map test where they have to write because, when you're a charter school, you test a lot. And so I thought that it could be like a dual purpose thing. And the blogging club was great for a few weeks, and then the girls kind of like lost the memento on it, or we ran out of topics. You can never really run out of topics though, but the memento is definitely like not there. So then I transformed that club into a coding club, and the girls were really drawn to it. We had preschool through grade 5, and I had 2nd through 5th graders in the coding club, and they loved it. We were using Tinker, and just being able to create their own sprites, their own characters, to be able to do digital storytelling with coding, they loved it. And like the learning, I mean, their ability to like ask questions and like phrase it in the right terms and like really communicate what they want their actors to do was awesome. And then seeing the integration that like Tinker had with math, for example, helped us to leverage learning of math in their regular classes so that it wasn't just the after school club. So we did the very first hour of code back in 2012 or 13. I forget what year it started.
I remember. I just don't remember the year.
Yeah.
there were like 2 or 3 activities you could do. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And some of their activities actually related a lot to math. And because it was before the code with Anna and Elsa. Code with Anna and Elsa, I think, was year 2.
Yep.
So year 1 was like Angry Birds. but there were some really cool things. And I think one of them had to do with the squirrel activity with the frozen. It wasn't frozen.
Ice Age.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you integrate turns, you integrate angles, not as much as the Anna and Elsa does. But what I did was I presented to teachers. A lot of things happened that year. I integrated the technology, where the technology integration is with the Common Core, because Common Core was also new the year before that. And I put it in the nice big blog post and laid it out, and that's part of what allowed me to get promoted. I'm like, see, integrations.
You don't even know you need me to do this, but you do.
Right? See, the standards say.
It says it in the standards. Look, it says it in the district technology plan. Didn't you write that plan? Let's not worry about that.
But what was really cool is being able to like go to teacher meetings and show them the coding integrations. Really allowed us to get some strong buy-in, especially in 4th and 5th grade at that point, and in the support classes. So we had some rather large support groups, and I had very close relationships with those teachers, because the one thing about students who are like not part of the regular classroom or who get like special services is that they, even though like their IQ may not be like the highest in the class, their iteration level is like so high, meaning that they are used to going back and like they're used to not getting things right away. Right.
And so they're comfortable already going back and working through a problem, because they have to do that for most things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world if they make a mistake, which is so awesome. They're like, this didn't work. Yes, they get frustrated, but it's like the iteration aspect is not something that's new to them.
Yeah, and I would say that some of the kids that I find have the most frustration, the most frustration and the least excitement when we go to do coding activities are those some, not all of them, but there's some of the really advanced kids who are just used to it being easy and they don't make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, they get really frustrated because they're not used to it. Like those kids, in my experiences, have had a hard time. Like I said, not all of them, but they have a hard time loving when we get into that. Whereas other kids that you would have no idea, based on everything they've done in the classroom up to date. Like when you start doing the coding, they dig in, they take off. Like they love it.
Yeah, it's like the perfection complex. It's like if you've always been an honor roll student, and if it comes naturally, then trying something new where you might fail is not a risk that many of those students are willing to take.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to see that dynamic and how those kids, like, I remember one of the girls in the advanced class had told me, she's like, I hate coming to this class. And I was like, she's the only kid I've ever had tell me she doesn't like coming to anyone. She's like, and it's not you. She's like, she's like, well, it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? She's like, I like you, but I don't like the stuff that we do. She's like, just give me the information and let me give you a paper or whatever. I'm like, okay. But like, I can accept that. But yeah, it's just kind of like that. So when you bring that up, it definitely makes me think of the experiences I've had with different kids where, those kids who are used to struggling, they don't mind.
Right.
So you worked for a few years in this school in DC. You had some great, really positive, I'm sure some other wild experiences as well, but some really positive experiences with girls and coding and integrating them into technology. You moved around a little bit after that, to say the least. But I think that over that time, a couple of things that I've seen and noticed from you since I've known you in the past few years is that you are consistently sharing interesting things with technology, and you have also been talking about ways to integrate coding into regular classrooms. not just like the technology classroom or the coding club, but actual like math class and, just into regular instruction. And I don't think I see that in a lot of places yet. Like I don't see a lot of schools and a lot of classrooms where coding activities are part of class activities. So where did you kind of build that up from? And, how did that come to you? How did you see it? How do you see it in practice? And then, kind of tell me a little bit more about integration involving coding with the classroom in general.
Definitely. So I think one of my strengths is like I see connections in things and in people, and like I can read something and see a connection in it, if that makes any sense. And so like when I read the Common Core standards, not like I go and like read and recite. Well, I can recite some of them, but anyhow,
you got your pocket Common Core standards back there.
I'm like, take a break. 2.5 speak audio recordings and add them to presentations. Yeah, which I think that is actually that one. Anyhow. What's really cool though is that with the understanding of coding and computer science and the different tools that were out there at that point, so like Tinker and Scratch and Code.org were the main ones that I was fiddling with at that point. Being able to see some of the activities in there and experience some of those things and then go back and look at the standards and say, wait a minute, this feels educational. Like this feels like more than just fun. Because one thing that I've learned in coaching and one thing that I've learned in working with teachers is that you do not bring something just because it's fun. There's not enough in the day for things to just be fun. But if you can integrate something that they're already doing in with something that's fun, then technically it's not just fun.
Yes.
It's fun with purpose.
Yes. That is something I've found a lot more of this year is like, I'm like, oh, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do that with? Like, why are we doing that? What can we attach that to? So that's part of, so this year, my first thing was give me all of your curriculum, lay it out. I want your curriculum maps. I want to know exactly what you're doing. So I can start making those connections between the random things that I want to do and so absolutely. So even working with different schools and different kids and with coding. And so I know this has been a project that you've been kind of building on over the past, well, definitely more than the year, but within this past year, it's something you've really poured into and developed into an actual thing, which is pretty awesome. I have it like sitting right here in front of me, but so like you wrote a book, and it's a really interesting book, and it's a book that I don't think there's an equivalent out there anywhere else that talks as the book is called Code Equity, Keying Girls into Coding. And it is all about finding ways to get more girls into technology, into coding, into those tech education fields so that girls can, take back, I guess, now that I've read a bit of this book, girls can take back what was theirs to begin with, I guess, so to speak. So tell us more. Like I said, I haven't finished because of time constraints, and by the time we talk again, I'm sure I will be finished. But tell everybody more about where the project came from, like what prompted you to write it, and then what you're hoping for, outcomes and expectations in terms of the whole thing.
Well, back in the summer of 2014, I attended the Google Teacher Academy in Mountain View. And during that, we had to have like an action project. And so I had one that was with a group. And that was coding connections, like connecting educators with like professionals in coding. Yeah. But as like a little like pivot from that, one thing that I wanted to do was write a book that integrates coding with Common Core standards. However, during that period, actually my whole life, I've been going through a lot of moving and transitions. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't stop.
I can't wait for this to stop. So yeah.
Right. So in 2014, I was in between jobs. And so that summer, I was actually transitioning to another school in Illinois. If I wasn't in the middle of a transition, then I would have definitely written a book on integrating Common Core and coding. Because I opted to wait, because life gets busy, several other, like at least half a dozen other people have written books related to coding in Common Core, or coding in education, or coding in this and coding in that. And what I realized in looking at the marketplace was that nobody has tackled the issue of gender equity in teaching coding. And it is definitely an issue. I started a coding club at my school out here in Singapore, and it was open for a grade 2nd through 5th grade. And during the first season, 24 boys and 1 girl signed up.
Which sounds exactly like every coding club I've seen everywhere.
Right. And so I'm like, there is something very, very, very wrong with this. If it starts like that in elementary, then what happens in middle school and what happens in high school? And if we can't get the girls in by the time they graduate from high school, then how are we going to get them in when they're in college? So I know that Reshma Sajani, who's the CEO of Girls Who Code, came out with a book series of Girls Who Code books that are geared towards girls. So that is their targeted audience. But what I realized in looking at all the books that are out there, there's nothing that addresses getting girls into coding from an educator's perspective, like how we can do that as educators. So I created the book that does that.
And that's fantastic. Because you said you had 24 boys and 1 girl in your club, and I look at the club at my school, and I've had conversations with people about this. I said, we need a girls club, like just girls, and for a lot of reasons. But because I have girls in my class who love when we do coding, but that they won't join the coding club. They don't spend a lot of time doing it on their own. And I try to encourage them, but at the same time, they're not joining that club. Like they're just not, for one reason or another, they're not joining it. And every year I look at the club, and I know that the coding club teacher, if other girl, like if she has 30 spots, but if girls signed up, she'll make room for them. She'll make sure that they're there, because she knows there's not that many, but they're just not signing up, and so you're not getting as many girls exposure to it and experience with it at the middle school age. And so that's one of the reasons I was so excited when I saw the book was coming out. I wanted to read it. I wanted to know more about it, because I have all these girls, and they do awesome things for me when I give them the chance to in the classroom. And I try to tell them, like, look, there's great programs at our high school, and you can do them, and you'd be great for them. And if you want a recommendation, like, I'll write you one in a heartbeat. But I don't see that happening beyond that. Like, I just think that's like they walk away and think, oh, that was fun, and then they move on.
Well, you're actually in a really sweet spot. So working with middle school girls, their ages, 10 to 13 or so. What's really cool about that age is that there's this program, totally free. The only catch is that you need an Android device. And you actually don't. You could do the Swift route, but all of their curriculum is geared towards the Android route. But it's called Technovation Challenge. And what Technovation Challenge is it's an opportunity for girls. Registration opens in October. Girls have to complete the project by April 25th. I've got a group of girls working on it right now. I actually need to see what their progress is. But girls get together in groups of anywhere from 1 to 5 girls, and decide on a problem in their community that's linked to a sustainable development goal. And we could get into a whole conversation around the SDGs, but if you know the
Yeah.
global goals or the millennial goals, this is like the new iteration.
So, living overseas, we don't do that here in the United States. No.
Oh my gosh. If we're going to save the world, it has to be everybody.
No, I'm all with you. I mean, I have my kids that have been developing all kinds of like just local fundraisers. We have beach cleanup I have a beach cleanup come with the kids that they plan the whole thing, and it came from like a water sampling thing that we did out of the boat in September or October with the science teacher, and like it turned into a year-long project. And like I have kids who actually fully planned an event where they're bringing like 40 kids to the beach. They've got supplies, they've got community helpers who are going to give them all the things they need for supplies. They're going to clean the beach, and like I'm just like that's exactly what we need kids to learn how to do, like to do things, to learn how to change things for what they want them to be right now. And so this sounds really interesting. Well, you might not have noticed, but I was like typing myself notes to find find the Technovation challenge so that I can look it up. But so,
and it's all student-led, which is amazing. It has the curriculum there for MIT App Inventor. And like, that's the thing about girls. Like, you can't just say, okay, class, we're doing this project. We're going to make the robots fight each other. There needs to be like a purpose. And if they're the ones to decide on what the purpose is, then it's going to be that much stronger. Like my one group of fifth graders who are working on it are creating an app called Sprout. And it's an app that like grows plants every time that you drink water, because they found that not enough, like students aren't drinking enough water. And so it's like, all right, you drink this much water, a cactus grows. This much water, a poppy grows.
So it's helping them to like, it's gamifying drinking more water for themselves.
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. And so like, I just see this as such a great opportunity for myself specifically, but also for people all over the world, really, but definitely people, like teachers and education at the middle and elementary levels to encourage and engage their students, their girls to do more, to try these things out, to be engaged in them, because he said they're in a spot where they're still interested. They're still excited. There's still stuff for them to do. They haven't lost that interest yet. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, they're not involved with the things that are currently in place. So I'm excited about it. I know there are a lot of other people who are excited about it. And obviously you are totally excited about the book coming out. We've talked about it a bunch, but what do you hope for? I mean, obviously you hope for everyone in the world to buy it and it to be like the next greatest thing on earth. But realistically, if you get to say to yourself, this would be not a like book selling outcome, but like an outcome of your book. If you could say like, what would be a great outcome for you?
So it would be hard to quantify this outcome, but the whole purpose behind the writing of the book and the publishing of it, so it's self-published, number one, because publishing companies don't like to have books competing against one another, and all of the education, not all of them, most of the education publishing companies out there have a coding book already. So yeah, and this is fully funded on Kickstarter, which you're aware of. But my hope is that this book helps to bridge the gender gap that exists in the coding world. But I also realize that that's not going to happen for like another 13 years if they start using this now, like 10 years at least, right? But I'm hoping that like the practices that are in here, the integrations that are in here, some of the strategies can be used to help create more gender equitable learning environments in classrooms around the world.
Which would be awesome. I mean, that would be a phenomenal thing to see. And I think that for most of us who work in technology, if we're reflective and honest with ourselves, it isn't a level game. It isn't a situation where despite the fact that in education, so many of the people in education are women. Look at who are the speakers at the technology conferences, who are the people who are being paid to come and talk to you about technology and integration and innovation. It's mostly men. And while I would love to be one of those people, I also recognize the fact that there are so many amazing things being done by women in education, in technology, that don't get broadcast enough, that don't get shared enough, and amazing women doing things in education who qualify themselves as just doing this or just doing like the best they can or whatever, and they don't say, this is what I do and it's awesome. So you being one of those people, I want to say that for you, the things that you do are great. This book is really exciting. I'm really like, I couldn't wait to talk to you about it and to get this out for people to hear, because there's so much good that hopefully will come from this. So I want to thank you, one, for talking to me about it, and for writing it. And, hopefully I can, at the very least, I can use this to make my practice better. And, the rest of us will also other people will also do the same. So, Tara, I just want to thank you again. Can you, before we wrap it up for tonight, and again, like I said, I definitely want to get you back to talk more about international education, because that's a whole nother like layer of your story that we'd be talking for hours. And so, but just for people that want to connect with you, that want to find out more about the book, that want to find out more about you, how can people get in touch with you or contact you?
So the easiest way to get in touch with me is on Twitter, and it's just at Tara Linney. I would say that I'm the only one, but there is one who's in Kentucky who's like a Zumba instructor. It's fine. No competition there.
You could contact both, but definitely contact you.
Yeah. And then, what was your other question?
And then if people want to learn more about the book, buy the book, read up on things get a chance to take a look at the book, things, anything like that. They want to know more about your work or the book. Where would they look for that?
Definitely. So I tweet a lot. So Twitter is probably a first stop. Number 2 would be my website, which is just taralinney.com. I'm in the process of updating that. And then number 3 for the book, it's available on Amazon. Right now it's available for pre-order. Its official release date is May 30th. And there's an ebook as well as the paperback that's available.
Yes, the ebook version is wonderful, but you're not going to sign my iPad, so I might have to get a paper version also at some point. So, but
I'll be at a seat.
So, absolutely fantastic. Check Tara out. She has, not only does she have this great book, but she does lots of really, really wonderful things with technology, coding, and education. And if you have questions, like I said, reach out to her on Twitter. Check out her website. Get in touch with her for sure, because you'll definitely learn a lot of great things. So, Tara, thanks again for joining us on the Teacher's Journey. Your journey is not over with us. We're definitely getting you back on here. But in the meantime, thank you, and I look forward to the official worldwide release of Code Equity, Keying Girls into Coding.
Thank you so much for having me.
Whoops, that one. Thanks again to our phenomenal guest tonight, Tara Linney. Check out her great new book, Code Equity, Keying Girls into Coding. Find it for pre-order on Amazon right now. And if you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on Spreaker, iTunes. Check us out on iHeartRadio or anywhere else podcasts are played. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on The Teacher's Journey.